I don't think I have a favourite film director of all time. But if I did, it would definitely be David Lynch. Sadly, David Lynch died in January 2025, thus passing the crown of the world's greatest living director to Ron Howard. That can't be right. I said to myself, Moid, you need to make the best goddamn piece of easily digestible, monetization optimized content you possibly can to honor this great man. And whatever you do, don't make a shitty top 10 video. This video is ostensibly a celebration of David Lynch's work, presented by a gushing fanboy. So it pains me to death to say anything negative at all. But I don't think I like Inland Empire. I don't like the way it looks. It's mostly shot on a cheap, low-resolution, handheld camcorder. With a runtime of 3 hours, it feels like it's about 2 hours too long. And I find it's the most confusing of all of his films, which usually isn't a problem at all. I love the intellectual endeavour of trying to piece together what the hell is going on in weird films. However, there are still quite a few standout moments which I enjoy. Laura Dern, who plays the woman in trouble, is predictably great as she slides into some kind of dreamy madness. Lynch nails the contemporary urban horror aesthetic and making me feel something, even if it is truly uncomfortable, is the sign of a great director. And of course, this is the film that features the rabbits. I don't know why I love this scene so much. It's basically some little people with rabbit heads just watching TV and doing the ironing. Maybe I'm a Lynch apologist, but this feels like the film that he really wanted to make at this point in his career. Very experimental and unconcerned with conforming to what we think a film should be. So maybe this is the purest Lynch film of them all, and it's just my problem that I don't love it and not David Lynch's. But it's still my number 10. I think most people would agree that either Inland Empire or Eraserhead was David Lynch's most experimental film. But Lynch himself said that crown belonged to the film that most people, including me, consider to be his straightest story. The Straight Story. Technically, The Straight Story is a Disney film. The studio acquired the rights after a successful screening at Cannes. Their president of production calling it a beautiful film with values, forgiveness, and healing that celebrates America. It's also the only Lynch film to receive a G rating, general audiences, all ages admitted. I do hope that some of those young innocent souls moved on to Blue Velvet or Wild at Heart. This is the tale of, it's a true story, about a man called Alvin Straight who travels across Iowa and Wisconsin on his lawnmower so that he can visit his brother who's just suffered a stroke. I can see why Disney were drawn to the film. It just drips emotion and sentiment. But I can also see how it fits the Americana obsession that Lynch tended to go for. Other than the Angelo Badalamenti score and the occasional signature shot, it's quite hard to see the Lynchiness here. There is metaphor in the journey through life mirrored in the journey atop a lawnmower, the postmodern American Odyssey, but there's no dream logic or uncanny nightmare. So maybe that's why Lynch considered this his most experimental film. I really like it. It's a good film, but I must admit that I'll probably never watch it again. We need to talk about Dune, the intellectual property that carries so much baggage due to it being the most beloved science fiction book of them all. I could and probably should make a whole video about the production shenanigans surrounding this film and how Lynch would eventually try to disown his involvement and very rarely mentioned it in interviews. In hindsight, look at the body of work he produced, minus Dune. It's almost autobiographical, set in small-town America and then shifting the focus over to Los Angeles, almost mirroring his life. Now ask that director to adapt a science fiction novel full of spaceships, lots of action, and a cast iron set of rules, because the studio want a very particular version of Dune, not David Lynch's opinion on what Dune is, and it's no surprise that the end result will buckle under the pressure. I do understand his frustration. The edit that he wanted was pretty much taken away from him, and I also understand that many Dune book fans don't like the film. But I think it almost gets it right. He brings a weirdness to the Harkonnen scenes that works remarkably well on screen. He captures the darkness of the Bene Gesserit and the trippy effects of the spice. Its downfall is adapting just a small part of the story. The pacing feels off, and working in the shadow of Star Wars to appeal to a mass audience, while also staying too close to the source material to appeal to the Dune book fans. It's now impossible for me to judge this film as its own entity, which it never really was, but I'm still glad that it exists. And I can't help but wonder what would have happened if Lynch would have landed the Return of the Jedi job. Not to diminish what I've just talked about and mostly praised, but that's the overindulgent experimental, the safe Disney picture, and the botched Hollywood adaptation out of the way. The rest of the video feels like the real David Lynch, whatever that means. Number 7 is The Elephant Man, the first Lynch film I ever saw. I didn't know who the hell he was at the time. I was about 10 years old and ran screaming from the room when John Merrick first removed his mask. I did return to this a few years later when I was a teenager, and I must give it credit for being one of the films that made me realise what a film can actually be, what a director is, how important is that artistic hand. It takes the simplest biopic formula, the later part of the life of a man whose body is deformed due to Proteus syndrome, and adds layers of texture through the direction. Most notably for me, the surreal cutscenes, the swirling sound design, and the deliberate placement of the camera. It remains a very tough watch for me, one of only 4 films that have ever made me cry, along with E.T., Watership Down, and Anvil, the Story of Anvil. I'm not joking. They're such sweet, lovely guys who are just following their dreams. Eraserhead is certainly Lynch's weirdest film, wouldn't you say so? Later in his career, he developed a method that would blend the real world with the projections of the mind. But here, it's straight up dancing chickens and alien babies. This was his first full-length film, and famously took about 5 years to make, which is an exaggeration. The production was on and off over that time due to funding. It's about a man who lives in a post-apocalyptic, maybe Kafka-esque nightmare landscape. He gets his girlfriend pregnant, probably, and the baby is all deformed like a slimy animal and looks a bit like a giant sperm. I can follow the plot to a certain point. It's about the fear of fatherhood and the anxiety of responsibility or something. But it starts to lose me when his head falls off and gets made into pencils. Then it loses me even more when the baby turns into the moon or a planet and the guy hooks up with the lady that lives in the radiator. I mean, what's not to love? Next up is Wild at Heart, categorised on Wikipedia as a romantic crime comedy drama thriller. I suppose it is all of those things, but also Not really. I swear, every time I think about this film, my pulse starts to race. It has such a raw energy that makes me smile through the blood and the pain. This won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 1990, amid reports that hundreds of people were walking out of test screenings. It was controversial, it was daring, and it was brilliant. On the surface, the plot is pretty straightforward. Sailor, played by Nicolas Cage, is released from prison, picked up by his loyal girlfriend, Laura Dern, and then they road trip across America to California, breaking Sailor's parole. What makes Wild at Heart so special to me is that we get a Lynch version of so many cinema tropes. The road trip, the love story, the rebel on the run. And then he twists the whole thing and throws in a load of Wizard of Oz references and somehow ends this hellish scenario with hope and a musical number. My number 4 comes with a few caveats attached. It simply wouldn't be this high on the list or even comprehensible if you haven't seen season 1 and season 2 of Twin Peaks. Fire Walk With Me is a prequel to the show, then it fills in some of the gaps, and it also acts as a companion and a link to Twin Peaks: The Return, which was made over 20 years later. Twin Peaks is my favourite TV show of all time, obviously, and this film has meant more to me and improved over the years as I've gone deeper down the rabbit hole, especially since The Return. I love the middle finger that David Lynch delivers here. The film was greenlit after the show was cancelled, and the bean counters were expecting a solution to the cliffhanger of season 2, which they never really got. Instead, Lynch doubles down on his and Mark Frost's original vision for the concept and remove the soap opera and dark humour elements from the show. The result is a very powerful and unsettling film. It still can't be judged as a film like everything else on this list, but I have the luxury of being poisoned by the knowledge of the show, which is why I rank it so highly. Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me. The bronze medal for my favourite David Lynch film goes to Lost Highway, the first film in his so-called Los Angeles trilogy. By the way, the 3 LA films are not linked by story or characters. They're just the last 3 films that he made, all set in the same city, and they all focus on the perception of reality rather than a small town with darkness hiding underneath the clean veneer from his earlier career. Lost Highway is a neo-noir mystery about a couple that receive a package through the letterbox, a videotape that shows footage of the inside of their house. Things get very weird. Tension builds between the couple and more videotapes arrive, showing them asleep in their bed and the blood-soaked body of the wife. I don't want to spoil the big twist, not that I fully understand what the hell's happening anyway, but the film tears down the barrier between what's actually happening and what the husband thinks is happening. This kind of storytelling with the bifurcation of consciousness can get very messy in the wrong hands. But of course, Lynch handles it perfectly. It's eerie, it's dark, and it's slow in just the right measure. And it has a fantastic score, again by Angelo Badalamenti, and an amazing soundtrack featuring 9 Inch Nails, Rammstein and David Bowie. It's one of those films that really benefits from a rewatch once you know the rough outline. Not so that you can solve it, that's not the point. So that you can relax into whatever Lynch is doing here, which is amazing. My runner-up is arguably the film that put David Lynch on the map. Yes, I know The Elephant Man received 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Director, But it didn't win any of them, and even if it did, it wasn't as Lynchian as Eraserhead and this film, Blue Velvet. Excuse the pun, but Blue Velvet is the linchpin to what I consider to be the second phase of his filmmaking career, the examination of the dark underbelly of the seemingly nice, small American town. It borrows heavily from 50s noir cinema, something that Lynch never let go of. But of course, it adds a few twists and ramps up the tension, the violence, and introduces us to some of the best characters and uncomfortable moments in film history. Blue Velvet was a revelation to me, one of many provided by David Lynch over the years I've been watching his films. I call it a perfect movie, and I wouldn't change a single thing. From the opening sequence with the hosepipe and the heart attack, to the way Laura Dern appears out of the dark in the street, to Dennis Hopper's unhinged portrayal of Frank, I'm equally intrigued, mesmerised, and terrified. So where do we go from perfection? Well, the only place left, if push comes to shove, is my favourite film of all time, Mulholland Drive. The very first time I saw this film, I knew it was my kind of thing, and I knew it was something very special. But I also had the sense that getting under the skin of what's really happening would deepen my appreciation for the film, and I was right. Again, I could and probably should make a whole essay just about Mulholland Drive. It's the kind of film that really deserves analysis and interpretation. Crucially, I also think it's a film that benefits from the director never explaining his intentions and leaving the puzzle in the hands of the viewer. In a nutshell, it's about a woman that moves to LA in search of the dream, to become a movie star. But then things get predictably weird. Strange characters show up, there's a mystery, some amnesia, a dead body, seemingly unconnected events. It's all great, but what the hell is going on? 2/3 of the way through the film, our characters suddenly have different names. Their situation is not what we first thought it was. The big reveal, I won't spoil the twist, which isn't really a twist, is that the film is part reality, part wish fulfillment. We are witnessing the projection of a character's desires, how they wanted things to be, play out on screen. And that's all I'll say. And may I stress, that's only my interpretation. When you understand the mechanism of Mulholland Drive, the dream logic, or maybe not, a repeat viewing will recontextualize everything. A very risky strategy that could backfire into a complete mess, but once again, Lynch absolutely nails it. A few years after falling in love with this film, I learned that it was originally a pilot for a TV show with an open-ended storyline and plots that apparently went nowhere. The show was rejected, so Lynch filmed a whole new section, which is the third act, and then he joined it onto the original footage and made it into a feature film. So you're telling me that my favourite film of all time, by my favourite director of all time, is a result of serendipity and circumstance patched together by Lynch after a session of transcendental meditation? Okay, I'll take that. Maybe that's the secret sauce that I struggle to comprehend with all of these films. Lynch injected something special into everything he'd done that even he couldn't fully explain. Ideas are like fish. If you want to catch little fish, you can stay in the shallow water. But if you want to catch the big fish, you've got to go deeper. Down deep, the fish are more powerful and more pure. They're huge and abstract, and they're very beautiful.